ThekarmicDF.
What is up, you guys? It's the Karmic DF back to you again with another video. This time we're going to talk about what is going on in the ethers, right? The Schuman resonance has been off the charts and it's bringing a lot of trauma to the surface. If you do see this video in the future, you could still use it on how to deal with trauma as it comes up. But we're going to focus a little bit on the Schuman resonance, what's going on right now, what is this meant to be teaching us and helping us with, so that we don't really fight against the current. We actually use this to our advantage so that we can not ascend, like pass away or nothing crazy like that, but so that we can move forward in our life and release the things that have been holding us back. So if you're someone who has lately been feeling anxious, a little overwhelmed, a little exhausted, maybe things from like 3 years ago are popping back up into your head and you're like, why am I thinking about this? I'm over it. Like, I don't understand. Then this is the video for you. We're going to break it all down. We're going to understand why, and we're going to understand how to use all this energy to our advantage so that we can be the best versions of ourselves and move forward in a healthy manner that makes the most sense to us, that makes us the happiest, that gives us the happiest life. So if that's something you're interested in, please like this video. That helps my channel so much. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment down below on what you would like to see in future videos. And as always, let's get into it. So a quick note of, if you don't know what's going on with the Schuman resonance, it's basically solar flares. We've been getting hit real hard, and in the spiritual community, they've been saying that that's correlated with the ascension of us moving up to 5D. But I want to bring this a little bit more like down to earth so that anyone can get something from this video, not just spiritual people. So basically, because of the Schuman resonance being so off the charts, what we're experiencing is, first of all, we're feeling a lot of anxiousness. We're feeling a lot of just overwhelm is like the main thing that I could really explain it as. And what's really going on a psychological level is we are being forced collectively to look at things that we've had to push down in the past. And like the main thing that I'd like to explain this as is, we in society, especially at large, have learned not to feel, right? We've been in the divine masculine energy for a very long time, and it wasn't until the lockdown that we even started really honoring mental health as a whole. And so when we look back to generational trauma, our own trauma, when it's going on, when we're in the thick of it, I just heard the song, Into the Thick of It, but when we're in it, right, we have to compartmentalize in order to survive, or we have to compartmentalize in order to get through whatever it is. So say like, I don't know, maybe you're fighting with a boss, right? And you can't really yell back because like that's your boss. And so like you have to compartmentalize, push it down. But what we know about energy is it can't be created nor destroyed. And so even though society likes to think that you can just brush over your feelings, that's not what happens at all. It gets stored into your body and then it becomes something else, whether that's a mental health issue, whether that's a physical health issue. That all depends on the situation at large. But what's going on right now is we are collectively being forced to look at the things that we've pushed to the side. And I'll give you an example of something that came up for me that I didn't even really think was that big of a deal until it came back to me during this recent, because we've been getting really hit with the Schuman resonance lately. And so especially with Cancer season being a water sign, you might be extremely emotional during this time. Again, this is a timeless video, so if stuff is coming up for you, then this video will still help you. But let me start with an example, right? So the other day, I was feeling kind of off, and I looked into it, and the Schuman was off the charts. And so I knew intuitively that I needed to turn everything off, because we don't really usually do that. We like to run away and escape from our feelings, which is why I made that social media video, so check that out. But I knew intuitively that I had to turn everything off and sit with myself. I didn't know why, I just knew it was going to happen. And so I sat with myself, and this memory came back to me of someone that should have loved and cared for me, right? And in a heat of the moment and a misunderstanding, they put their hands on me. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 16 at the time. And I did something that, I was at fault for, but nothing ever is warranted to be physically attacking someone. It's not okay. It's never going to be okay. You're not going to sell me in the comments that physical abuse is ever okay in any circumstances. Well, if you're putting your hands on someone, side note, if you're putting your hands on somebody, it's literally because you don't know how to process your own emotions. And so because you're not processing your own feelings, you're taking it out on somebody else. And that's why you'll never convince me that it's okay. But anyway, there was a misunderstanding. I did something that person didn't agree with, miscommunication involved as well, and they started railing on me. I remember it. We were in the car. They started punching me on the side of my arm. I remember hiding my face, and I remember that I was trying to jump out of the car. Like, it was a crazy story. Tried to jump out of the car. They locked the door, wouldn't let me. I remember them pushing my face against the window and just screaming at me, and I was begging them to understand where I was coming from. Long story short, I compartmentalized that moment in time, and I just, I pushed it over as like, well, I've been through a lot where I've kind of gaslit myself, and I've learned early on in life that, like, I'm always at fault and I'm always the one that's broken and I need to fix myself. And I was a magnet for narcissism, like friends, family, relationships, always a magnet for narcissists, especially if you're an empath, it's going to happen. And so I had gaslit myself for a long time, where instead of looking at other people's behavior, I would immediately internalize that. And so during this Schuman, like, I'm bringing it back, memories are flooding to the surface because they are ready to be released, and you're ready to release them. So don't fear it, and don't push it off. Like, if you feel something coming up and you're like, why am I thinking about this ex from like 10 years ago? Like, I'm over that. Well, you might be over it to an extent, but your body may have stored trauma from the past that you never got to actually come to terms with, go through the stages of grief with, because in that moment in time, in order to survive it, you had to compartmentalize. And so instead of crying and feeling your feelings, you pushed it down, and then you kind of breezed through it, because again, we lived in a society that did not promote mental health the way that we are finally nowadays. And so you learned early on that it was better for you to just breeze right through things. And now, as a collective, we are learning that that's not the case, and that we have to face the things that have harmed us in order to move forward and have a life that we actually can enjoy. Because we live in this society where we're like, if we climb that mountain, if we make enough money, if we get that dream job, if we get that dream relationship, if we this, if we that, then we'll be happy. But in reality, we're supposed to be happy every single day of our lives. Like, what is the point of life if we're always trying to reach something else instead of being happy in the present moment? And in order to do that, a big part of it is not running away from ourselves. And in order to stop running away from ourselves, we have to process the things that make us run away from ourselves in the first place. Instead of ignoring these emotions as they're coming up to the surface to be released, and again, this doesn't have to be right now. This can be like 2 years. If you see this video and you're having stuff come up, then it might just be time for you to actually address it. There might be something involved in astrology. I know currently there's a couple of planets in retrograde, so that's always internal stuff that's going on. So again, when this stuff comes up to the surface to be dealt with, don't gaslight yourself and be like, I should be over this. This is from 3 years ago. It's coming up because you never processed it. You compartmentalized it out of survival, and now it's time and you are ready. So it's okay to cry over something that you think is minimal, because right now it no longer impacts you, but it's still in your body and it's ready to be released. And so take this as an opportunity to, and don't look at it as weakness either, because I can almost hear it in my head like, oh, this is weakness, like crying is weakness. It's not. It's you making yourself healthy by letting go of this trauma that's affecting and impacting your body. And it's telling you a story about yourself. So as you're realizing this stuff and you're like, how could you? How dare you? How did I let this happen? I've definitely been going over this process where I've looked back at past relationships where I thought I was only cheated on by one relationship. It turns out I was cheated on by more than 5 people. I was putting the puzzle pieces together of like my childhood and how it impacted so heavily my relationships. And it was just kind of like, wow, I never realized how all of it was connected. And I want you to remember this story. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it was a big one. the story about the two brothers that had an alcoholic father. I don't know if this was actually a true story or if it's just something to kind of make you think, but there's a story where two brothers have an alcoholic father, right? And down the road, one brother becomes an alcoholic and then one brother stays sober his entire life. And if you ask both brothers, hey, why do you drink? The first brother goes, because my father was an alcoholic. Second brother, why are you sober? Because my father was an alcoholic. So everything boils down to a choice, essentially. You can have that, you can have the alcoholic parent and decide, woe is me, it's my tragedy, and I'm going to live in it, and I'm going to make that my identity. Or you can go, I hate that. I don't ever want to experience that again. And I'm going to do the inner work to make sure that that never becomes who I am. It's up to you to figure out who you want to be. And gaslighting yourself in these moments, when you're feeling these moments come to the surface, is the worst thing to do, because your body is ready to let it go. And you should be excited and proud of yourself to know that you're ready to let things go. Because think of it as like, I'm seeing like a mob movie where like they tie the block to your foot and like throw you in the water, and it's like, I can't get up. And what's really happening on a collective level is we are now like unraveling what anchors us down, what holds us back from becoming the best versions of ourselves, because instead of running away from it, compartmentalizing it out of survival, we're realizing now we don't have to survive from the past, right? Because now we're in a different headspace. And so now we have to take a look at it, and we have to look at it dead in the eye and realize, why did that happen? Did I, in that moment in time, embrace the feelings that I was experiencing? And if not, now it's time to do that. So yes, it's okay to cry about something from 15 years ago, because you are ready to release it. And once you do all of this work where you're releasing all of this old pain, maybe it's pain from a month ago, it doesn't matter, whatever's coming up for you currently, it's because it's time and you're ready. And the more that you do that, I'm literally seeing someone like untie themselves and come up into the fresh air out of the ocean. It's like, you're releasing yourself from the baggage that once defined you, like I've mentioned this in plenty of videos and on all of my social medias, that I was an alcoholic and I've been sober for about 4 years now. And my story could have easily been, I didn't have perfect parents and I had all these awful relationships and woe is me, and so I'm going to keep drinking. And I could have gone down a really ugly road, and I could have potentially, ruined my liver and ruined my life. But instead of making that my story, I used that as motivation of what I never want to be. And I looked around at the people that settled for complacency, and the people that were angry all the time, and the people that blamed everyone else instead of going, what can I do about this? I knew that I wanted more for myself, and I knew it was going to take work, but I was ready to do the work. And so with this Schuman experience, what we're getting is the opportunity to finally let go and release. So as you experience this, don't gaslight yourself. Don't go, I don't know why this is coming up, and push it away. Honor it, embrace it, let yourself feel it, because you're ready. And once you do that, I promise you, you're going to feel like this lightness, this weight that's been released from you. In the beginning of my spiritual experience, I was someone who was constantly binging true crime. And I'm not judging. This is not a judgy place here. This is coming from experience. But I was binging true crime and horror shows. I was smoking nicotine. I was smoking the ganj. I don't want to get canceled. And I'm not downplay. You can do it. I just, whatever. It is what it is. I was leaning on things in order to avoid myself. That's the point. And nowadays, I have so much silent downtime that it's actually wild, where I just spend hours like, all right, this is coming up for me. Cool. I need to deal with that. Or, okay, I have some silent alone time, and now I'm just going to sit in nature, and I'm going to be dumbfounded by how beautiful everything is. And there's a little crow that visits me every day in my backyard, and it like makes my day. And I love the little things now, because there's not as much in my system that I haven't already processed and dealt with. I've dealt with the childhood trauma for the most part. I've dealt with relationship trauma for the most part. I've put together why it was that I always attracted emotionally unavailable men, or cheaters, or just men that didn't appreciate me, or men that put me on a pedestal because instead of learning who I am, the complexities of me, they saw me as, this isn't an ego-based thing, but they saw me as like a prize and trophy. And because I had such low self-esteem, it was like, oh, someone sees me, but they didn't actually see me, you know? And I had to do a lot of inner work and understand where all of it was coming from in order to come back home to myself. And again, as a collective, that's what we're doing. We're basically like, I'm seeing like a 7-year-old like tug on their parent and go, but mom, why? But why? But why? You're basically kind of in that space during this events that is probably happening till at least the end of July, but I would not be shocked if it's going through to August. So if this video helps you, share it with your friends, because a lot of people I'm seeing on social media especially is like, I'm feeling depressed and I don't know why. I'm feeling anxious and I don't know why. And it's like, because it's time to purge. It's time to feel the feelings you've been avoiding. It's time to stop being trapped in the past. And I know that it's scary, and I know that there are certain things that we don't really want to look at, but it's not in regards to like, you have to face this thing that you've been avoiding. It's what is coming up for you in this present moment, because this is what you are ready for. Maybe I wasn't ready for that car story until the other day when it came up for me. Maybe I wasn't ready to handle how relationships were really awful towards me until I was ready and in a place where I no longer wanted bare minimum and breadcrumbs. It's when we're ready that these things come up for us, and we're getting hit on a collective level to finally embrace the things that we've dealt with, honor it, and just like water, let it come up, let it flow, and let it release. You're ready. And if you want a life that's healthy, that feels lighter, where you're not constantly doing some form of escapism, then now is the time to embrace what's going on. Don't be afraid of those anxious feelings that are coming up for you. Don't be afraid of the sadness that may be coming up for you. Silence everything around you and ask yourself, what is coming up for me? What is this telling me about myself? And if you need to, grab a journal and start writing and see what happens. You might be like, I actually did this the other day with my own journal, where I was like, oh my God, I forgot this guy cheated on me. And then I forgot, oh my God, this guy treated me like absolute crap, hit a guy. Oh, this one guy got a girl pregnant while I was dating him. Like crazy stuff that I had completely forgotten about, because I had experienced so much trauma that my brain, out of saving itself, out of survival mode, turned it all off. And so there was a lot of blocks and blacks and blanks in my memory, black spots, sorry, in my memory of things where it's like, I don't remember, because I couldn't, because I wasn't ready to re-experience that again. Because if I had dealt with the flooding of those emotions, like let's say 3 years ago when I was like sort of freshly sober, maybe I wouldn't have been strong enough to deal with that. So again, as these feelings are coming up for you, be proud of yourself, because now you're ready to accept that this has happened and try from a bird's eye perspective to understand why it happened, so that it'll never happen again. And so you can understand where these patterns are coming from in your life, and so that you don't repeat the same process. Like I've said in prior videos, where we go, oh, all I attract is people that cheat on me. And then sure enough, you're self-fulfilling prophecy. But what we don't actually do is go, well, why do I attract this? Why do I allow it? Where did this begin? Where did it come from? Why do I feel the need to settle for people that would cheat on me, or to settle for people that treat me less than I deserve? It's digging into your subconscious mind, digging into your past, digging into what it was that you grew up with, so that you can see the pattern that is formed, so that you can break it. Just like I said with the story about the two brothers, you have a choice to make. You can live in your trauma and make that your story and make that who you are, or you can process that trauma and become the best version of you possible. That's something to be proud of, that you don't have to live in that anymore, and you can actually have a life that makes you truly happy. That's what this Schuman resonance is really about. It's about coming home to yourself, forcing the pain out of you, and forcing yourself to see it for what it is, and realizing how much more you deserved, and how in that time frame you might have needed to compartmentalize what was going on in order to be you were in a survival mode, and now you don't have to be in that anymore. It's time for you to live. It's time for you to dream big. It's time for you to live a life that makes the most sense to you, that makes you happy, that doesn't weigh you down. And in order to live a life like that, where you can enjoy every day, you have to deal with the stuff that you've been running away from. And again, that is why this Schuman resonance is so important right now. It's because it's like the universe is forcing us to face it, because it's kind of like, they're like, all right, you deserve better than this, and you haven't been learning, so we're going to make you learn. So I feel like that's enough. I feel like that explains it well, but if you need a part 2, let me know down in the comments. Again, if you see this video in the future, it doesn't have to be Schuman resonance. It could be something in your astrology chart that's going on. It could be just the stars in general, but whatever's going on, when those emotions are coming to the surface, it's because you're ready to release it. And that is a wonderful thing to know, because as you release the old pains, then you start to become the person that you actually want to be. And who doesn't want to be happy? Who doesn't want to be thriving? I mean, I used to be 4 years ago crying all the time, wanting to harm myself, drinking to get away from my emotions, having surface level friendships of people that could care less about me, relationships where they just treated me like absolute garbage. And now I'm in a place where I'm my own best friend, I'm my own partner, I'm my own parent, I'm my own everything. I find things that make me happy now. I've picked up guitar again. I'm doing yoga again. I'm exercising. I'm eating healthy. I'm becoming the person I want to be because I'm no longer running from the things that held me back in life. I'm not trying to escape it. I'm looking at it each and every time. When I feel a negative emotion coming up, I don't go, I don't want to deal with that. Let me numb it out. I go, something's coming to the surface that needs to be dealt with so that I can release it for good. And so I'm going to dive into it because I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I'm not going to let it define me anymore. And that's what you guys should be doing as well. So as you're feeling these emotions coming up to the surface, don't beat yourself up. Take this as an opportunity to realize that you are going to inevitably become the best version of yourself because you're releasing the baggage that has been weighing you down all of this time. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you enjoyed these videos, please leave a like. It really does help my channel. Subscribe, hit that notification bell for future videos. Leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this. Leave a comment down below for what you would like to see in future videos. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Love you guys so much. You can do this. I believe in you. When you do it, you make a ripple effect on the rest of the world. So don't discount the power of what it is that you're doing. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.